Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really glad to have you here. And today we're going to be talking about something that is so important, especially something that we don't get taught, and something which I am learning and always learning how to just build and develop within myself. And that is how to regulate your nervous system, why it's so important to even know how to do it, and also like the science behind it too. I really thought that this is again something which I've just been working on, and just like noticing that it's a skill which I think some of us might have been shown by others, or like something that you just learn, but there's like nothing really tangible that I ever found. So I've kind of done my own research and just like based on my own experience, like how I try and do it. And just remember, like, we're only human and no one's perfect, and there's reasons why like our nervous system might be dysregulated. So just to say that at the start, like, I think that, you know, it could be a little bit deeper, but like just knowing how you can calm your system, and knowing that, you know, when you feel those anxious feelings or thoughts, or if something's kind of overpowering, like there are ways that which we can, I guess, support our bodies. And that's really about what this is connecting back to our bodies and checking in with ourselves in those moments. So I really, really hope that this video helps you and is interesting as well. So one thing just to kick off with really is that your nervous system, when you feel overwhelmed, it's not literally in your head only. Like, you feel it in your body. Like I mentioned at the start, your like heart maybe pumps faster, like your body feels tense, your thoughts might spiral. And no matter how much you might say to yourself, like, I need to calm down, or like some things like maybe triggering something within you, like it doesn't always get fixed by just saying calm down. And that's because that overwhelm is a biological response essentially. And what we want to understand is like what actually is happening inside of your body when those moments are happening, and how to connect to that in those moments as well. And yeah, we're actually going to explore firstly like why our nervous system is actually like needing to be regulated, and like why even more so now. And I'll come on to a few things, but kind of to kick off this kind of bracket is we're essentially living in an area, or just a part of time where there's like low level threat. And that's kind of the term that I've kind of discovered, where it's basically like our brain is obviously wired for survival like thousands of years ago. Of course, as we know, like back then, like the stress would be real dangers, such as a predator like coming to attack you and like trying to protect yourself. Like it's just part of like our survival instincts. But now that stress equates to things like emails, or expectations, or overthinking, or social pressure. And it's just a different kind of stress, but our body is like experiencing it in the same way, or feeling it's the same thing, even though it's a different stress. And it's not like that intense stress that we like used to like feel and know then. And our brain, unfortunately, like not unfortunately, but our brain doesn't know the difference. And I think that's so interesting. So that's why like it will keep activating the fight or flight response, because you're feeling stress, but it's just a different stress to obviously what we would have done like hundreds of thousands of years ago, right? So it's experiencing that fight or flight response over and over again, and our body never really fully calms down in that experience. Sorry if you can hear a helicopter outside, it's really loud. But anyway, our body never really fully calms down, and we stay in a like semi-stress state all day. So I think that's something to think about as well. Chronic stress is now the norm. So essentially, like, we're no longer dealing with short bursts of stress anymore. Like, we are dealing with chronic activation. So what that means is like our stress hormones like cortisol stay elevated for long periods of time now. So science shows us that this can disrupt our sleep, this can affect our digestion, it can increase anxiety and impact our hormone and energy levels. So there's so many things that this like actually impacts as well. So over time, our nervous system is actually feeling a little bit more sensitive and not feeling stronger. So I think again, it's something that we don't really know or like really understand, like, or we might, but not in like the depth that I wish that we were taught. So that's again why I'm kind of making this video, is like, again, if I could tell my younger self, this is what you could try. The other thing is digital overload, as we know, is we're constantly being stimulated. Our phone is constantly stimulating us. There's notifications, there's social media, there's noise just generally. Like, information overload, I think, is the way to, like, best way to describe this, is that we're just constantly fed like things which is taking our mind and rewiring it essentially, and our brain never gets a break essentially. So it's like our amygdala is getting more and more reactive, and I think essentially we feel more anxious, we feel more overwhelmed, and thus less able to focus. So again, our nervous system is getting affected. Another point as to why, like, it's affecting our nervous system is we're actually more and more disconnected from natural regulation. Like, you might have this where, you know, maybe you live in an area that's a bit more like you're integrated into nature a little bit more, but in the past, people would naturally regulate their nervous systems through movement, through going out in nature, like spending days outside and having a sense of community. Like, that was so important. A slower pace of life also, like, not this fast, like, need it now sort of energy or has to be done now. And I think that whole thing is just, we're just disconnected from like that natural element. So now what happens is we tend to sit more. Obviously, like, if you work from home, like, you're at an office, like, you're just sat at a desk most of the time, you're looking at one screen and then looking at your phone screen and then looking at the TV screen. Like, I saw this thing on like Instagram somewhere, it was like just how like a day is like one screen to one screen to one screen, and it's just crazy. Like, I don't know, like, anyway, it's just how it's so different now, right? And we also scroll more, obviously, and that means, like, because we're so locked into our phone, we're just isolated a bit more. Like, I don't know about you, but like, when I'm sometimes in like central London, like, I'll see people on their phone and then they're walking, they don't even know like what's going on around them, and it's just like so interesting to me. Like, people are so locked into their phones, and it's just, it's just something to think about. And that means, like, we're not completing the stress cycle essentially, because that needs to go through a process, and we're not actually doing that because we're so like focused in on something. Another sort of thing to think about is high pressure and expectation culture that we're kind of living in at the moment as well. Like, especially for like women, and like, again, like myself, like I feel like it's not just women, but like, you know, like, there's this sort of element now where you're trying to balance everything, like career, financial things, like family, like societal things. And it's like our nervous system is like, you know, we're again on social media seeing some things like images of like what people have as like these, I don't know, the big kind of like material achievements and things like that you kind of get surface, and then it kind of makes our nervous system feel like we're not enough, or I'm not doing enough, or like, you know, it's just that comparison state. So what I also want to touch upon is like when our nervous system dysregulation actually shows up for us. So I just want to touch upon this just to help us like recognize like what this could look like. So when you feel overwhelmed is sort of one way that our obviously nervous system dysregulation will occur. Like when things feel too much, you can't think clearly, like you're either shut down or panic, that definitely comes up. And our nervous system is overloaded in that state. I just want to state that like it's not a failure. It's just like your nervous system is like overstimulated. Obviously during anxiety or overthinking, of course, is when your nervous system can be effective. So that's where we have like racing thoughts or thinking of the worst case scenario. And also when your brain can't switch off, like, you know, when it is like you're just maybe overthinking something, or just before bed, like you've got like a deep thought and that keeps coming back. Like, you know, it's just one of those things. So that is all linked to our heightened amygdala activities. So yeah, it's all going on inside the brain. Another thing is when our nervous system is affected is when we're so exhausted, but we actually can't rest. Like you're tired all day, but then you're wired at night, like your brain is thinking. It's like, how do we like have our body is essentially sometimes stuck in stress and fatigue. So there's no like wind down periods sometimes. So I think it's just thinking about that. Also emotionally, like we might feel that like our reactions might feel more intense. So for example, you might get frustrated more easily, or like have less patience, or crying and like letting out emotion might be like coming up because our nervous system is dysregulated. And I just want to caveat for women, I'm learning so much as well. Like our emotions are powerful and they're teachers, and it's not like, you know, we have to interact with every one of them, but like when things feel heightened, how do we, you know, how can I, like, again, I'm learning from myself, like calm down and understand what's happening, like in a moment where, you know, you're feeling overwhelmed or maybe work feels anxious, you know, like how do we how do we understand our emotions and our reactions to them, and like reduce the intensity of them? Because like naming an emotion first and foremost is one of the key steps we can do, but we'll come on to that. And obviously things in our nervous system can also show up via like a freeze mode or procrastination. So when our nervous system is feeling unsettled, like sometimes we can't start tasks, or we feel stuck, or like you just don't feel like you want to get into something. And also physically it can show up. So you might feel tightness in your head, in your chest. It can also show up as gut issues, which is insane. And just general muscle tension. So I just want you to know that like most people, all those things that I've just explained, like what our nervous system might be going through. Like sometimes we think we've got a mindset problem. Like I should be thinking positively about this thing, or why am I thinking so negatively? Like that sometimes it might be that, but sometimes it might not be that. And it actually might be a nervous system thing. So yeah, I just wanted to touch upon that before I go like into this. And I think just touching upon why our nervous system and regulation is so important right now is that when your nervous system is regulated, you feel and you think clearly. Again, such an important thing. You respond instead of reacting. So we don't just jump onto that thought or feeling. We take time and pause and understand it. And you also feel calmer in situations that might have like overwhelmed you previously. And you also might find that like when your nervous system is regulated, because you're not like, or when we learn how to do it in those moments, your energy isn't like spread so thin. Like you have more energy back because you're not dwelling and overthinking into thoughts. And of course, like the foundation of all of this is your nervous system will again help your mental well-being, your productivity, your confidence, your emotional stability. So again, all of these things that we're not taught. So I really wanted to touch upon it in this video. So let's go into what's actually happening in our bodies when you're feeling overwhelmed or dysregulated. Your brain thinks that there's a threat potentially, essentially, even if it's not physical, like again, like a tiger coming to chase me. That's not, it's not going to happen unless you're putting yourself in that situation, right? So this activates a part of your brain called the amygdala, which is responsible for processing fear and danger. So again, your amygdala is activated, and once it's triggered, it can send a distress signal into your body, which then activates the fight or flight response. So it means like when again, if that tiger was there, either I'd freeze, or I'd want to fight it, or I want to fly, like run away, basically, right? Like it's just one of those, like it's just the process that you would go through in those survival instincts. But in those moments, your body will also release stress hormones, so cortisol and adrenaline, right? So again, to try and protect you. So that's what's happening. Your heart rate might increase, your breathing might increase, your your blood circulation, all of these things might be impacted. And that, interestingly, can also contribute to like shutting down those non-essential functions like digestion, and it shuts down like your thinking sometimes, and like it can affect your digestion, like things like that. It's just so crazy like how it all links together. So that's why when you're feeling dysregulated, you can't think clearly, you feel panicky or frozen essentially, and small things feel massive in that moment. So yeah, I just want you to know that this is kind of what's going on scientifically and why we might feel like we shut down or fight or flight, etc. So your nervous system essentially has like different states. So simple kind of breakdown of this is there's kind of two main branches. There's your sympathetic activation kind of state essentially, which is either you fight, you flight, there's anxiety, or there's urgency. Then you also have your parasympathetic, which is your rest, your digestion, your recovery. So that's sort of the calm aspect of your nervous system, right? So the key player here is your vagus nerve, and that is what helps your body, or helps shift your body into a calm state. So your vagus nerve here is, again, so powerful within this. And the goal is not to avoid and pretend this isn't happening, but to move your body back into safety. And I think that is the biggest thing that I've learned, and I'm always learning again, is moving your body back to safety. So how to actually calm your nervous system. I really hope the context has helped and like helped you feel like, yeah, like understand and just if it's new to you, like what's happening. But let's go into now like how to actually calm your nervous system. So a few things here. Again, these are all like backed by like science and just research that I've been doing. And essentially, to begin, slow, deep breathing regulates your heart and your brain. I know it sounds so simple, and you probably heard this like so many times on like different areas of conversation and different topics, etc. But it calms your heart and your brain. And breathing is actually one of the only systems, if you think about this, that can control that you can control that directly affects your nervous system. So that in itself can show you the power of actual breathing. Like if there's something that I love to do is inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for maybe 4 to 6 seconds or a little bit longer if you'd like, and then exhale for like 4 to 6 seconds and like repeat that. It's like a box kind of breathing method, and that is so interesting to me though, because I think you're meant to actually exhale so a little bit longer, like in those moments if you can. The longer exhale actually activates your parasympathetic, which is your calm state, the calm nervous system, via the vagus nerve, and that then helps reduce your heart rate and stress sensitivity, etc. So breathing scientifically, obviously, like I say obviously, it might not be even obvious, like I was so new to this, right? But it's so interesting though how it's an obvious kind of tool to actually control and support your nervous system. Like it's just insane. It's one that we actually have within our gift to connect back to your breath. It's so powerful. So one to think about. Another way is actually cold exposure. So this is quite interesting. I love to do this in the mornings, just like after I wash my face, I just splash cold water into your face, or just like have something cold, or like there's things like called ice rollers now, which are so like nice and relaxing, right? But stimulating. And that cold stimulation actually activates the diving reflex, which slows down your heart rate and also reduces stress signals, which is so interesting too. So another kind of way to like ground yourself. Coming on to the next point, which is actually grounding. So this can help interrupt the mental overload that you might be experiencing. So using the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, I might have touched this in another video, but if not, essentially the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method is seeing, if you're going out for a walk, it's a perfect example, but you could literally do it right now where you're sat, is see 5 things, like look for 5 things that you can see, like what I can see within, like in my direct space. 4 things you can touch. For example, I'm holding this microphone. 3 things you can hear. So like, you know, I can hear there's some like work going on outside, you know, like 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell, like might be the coffee, or 1 thing that you can taste. So it might be what you had for lunch. But like, it's so interesting because it helps ground you. And if you try this, I'd love to know like how you feel afterwards. Because when I do it and when I remember this tool, and then I come back and I've done it, and I've come back into the moment, and I feel different. I feel refreshed. I feel like I'm here, like in this moment. And honestly, that just helps so much. So I highly recommend that if you've not done it before. And yeah, and when you notice, again, awareness is everything within all of this. So if you notice it, just remember like this is what a tool you could try. Similar to like, you know, what I mentioned just before, but movement, that burns off your stress hormone. So when your body releases adrenaline, it's preparing you to move essentially. So physical movement can help metabolize your cortisol, what I want to say, your cortisol levels and your adrenaline. And that again will help complete the stress cycle, because essentially you're not triggering the stress, you're helping release the stress. So when you're like again, like, I can't say that word, can I? But you know what I'm saying. Yeah, when you're trying to process and you're actually like activating those your hormones via movement, essentially you're giving it a space for any tension to be released. That's why like there's always there's kind of like, I don't know, like a known thing that when you go to the gym and you get out and you feel so much better, lighter, because you've moved and processed emotions through that. And I don't know why I can't say that word today, but like it's just basically it's helping transform that energy into something and release it. So I highly recommend that. And that's like obviously like a scientific thing that we know has like is proven. Obviously it creates positive hormones, endorphins, etc. So one thing to think about. Another thing is like safe touch. I think, if you live alone, like even things like having a blanket and warmth and safety and comfort feels so nourishing and supportive. Even like if you can do like deep pressure, so if you can like massage, etc., or just like, like take care of your body, I think that can also stimulate or increase oxytocin, which is your calming hormone, and that also can reduce cortisol. So just remembering that, you can feel and like connect back to your body via this way. And yeah, another thing is reducing stimulation. So essentially, the less noise that you have and constant interruption and screens and so on, like just remember your brain has like a limited capacity for processing multiple stimuli. So any overload that you're experiencing can keep your nervous system activated. So just remember, like, this stuff, like it like can make your brain feel overwhelmed, tense, like freeze essentially, potentially, and just not know how to like again process these things. So less is more essentially too. So yeah, just to think about like why, like actually why you like regulating your nervous system again is so important. And one like final big recommendation or thing that I've been trying that really, really helps me is an awareness of how or what an emotion is inside. And I'm learning again, like, again, we're only human and we're trying. And I think that is the main thing here. Like, if you're doing that and, maybe the outcome is not like, it doesn't, maybe it's not immediately regulated. It's not like it's going to be that way, like always, but taking the time to check in. Like, I know, like, when I'm maybe feeling a bit like something's maybe happened or like I've got a response to something that I didn't expect, but if something's, maybe there's been like a disagreement or something like that. I don't know. Like, something's activated in you. Name the emotion. Always name the emotion. Notice what you're feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling a bit confused, or whatever it is. Like that, again, labeling something. I don't know what magic it does for our nervous system, but it literally could like restricts the impact of it so much because you're now familiar with what is actually happening and what you're experiencing. So naming that feeling, checking in your body, where are you feeling that? Are you feeling it in your chest, for example? Once you've named that and you know it, it reduces the intensity and the power of that moment. And ask yourself, even, let's say like you're maybe overthinking a thought, or, you can ask yourself, is this thought even true? Is this thought even true? Might not even be true. Or if this thought is true, is there anything I could do about this right now? Or can I speak to someone about it? Or should I journal about it? Like, what tools can you do to help process and release? Because I think this is another thing that, like, again, I recently just learning and discovering is that when you have these things, there's something coming up and it wants to be released, but we can kind of there is somewhere in that where we can choose, like, in what way do we want to respond or react, essentially. And responding is kind of the way that I've just kind of explained. So next time you might be feeling this, like, I urge you to try this and practice it and see how it feels to you, like naming it, labeling it, feeling it inside, and like then thinking, what is it? Like, is this true? Or what might I need to do to maybe soothe this, or if I can't, like, can I come back to it at some point? Just really think about that as well. So yeah, now as we kind of come towards the end of this video, I just wanted to leave you with a few other thoughts. So just remember, like, healing your nervous system is about, I think, habits and tools, or supporting your nervous system, essentially. Like, to feel calmer, we really need to train our nervous system. It's like a muscle, I guess, that we're learning to, like, develop. And just there's habits that obviously contribute to all of this. So like consistent sleep, that will regulate your cortisol cycles. Gentle exercise will increase your stress resilience. Mindfulness reduces amygdala activity over time. So that's things like meditation, or like deep breathing, or doing the 5-4-3-2-1 method, like mindfulness, reconnecting to the here and now and you. And also social connection with people you feel safe with. Like people who genuinely you care about and vice versa, that can increase oxytocin, that feeling of safety, that, we're only human and there's people that you can trust and maybe share, like, if it's like genuinely something that's affecting you, like who can you talk to about that, whether it's a professional or someone who you deeply trust, something to think about there. So just a final like truth to kind of leave you with, like, you're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're not like, your nervous system, like when you're feeling maybe a trigger or a response to something, or your nervous system is heightened for whatever reason, it's doing what it's meant to do, right? It's meant to protect you. That's what it's trying to do. But the goal is not to not feel like that anymore, because we know that there's modern day stresses, right? Like we've kind of touched upon through screens and constant stimulation. But what we can do is help our body feel safe again. And I think that is like the biggest lesson I've learned, is how can we make ourselves feel safe and heard and understood within? What is that emotion or thing trying to tell us, and what might it need or what might it not need? Like, it's just understanding that. And just next time you feel overwhelmed, don't try and like think your way through it, I think is something I've also learned, or just a piece of advice. Like, start with your body, feel it, and like try these tools that I've shared today, because I really hope that it will help you in these moments when you're feeling any sort of way like that. So yeah, I really, really hope today has helped you and has been a useful video, and something which you might be able to take and apply to your own life. And I think just like overall, this is so important, because neuroscience teaches us that regulating our nervous system improves our emotional regulation, our focus, our physical, even health outcomes. So it's such an integral thing that we know of course, but understanding it and not being afraid of it and knowing what might be contributing to what, I think is just so interesting and hopefully useful. And again, something I wish that I knew, but we learn as we go, right? So, and there's so many reasons as to why it might be dysregulated. Just that's also something to consider, and that might be something to work through professionally, right? And I think it's also, yeah, there's so many things to think about, but hopefully today I've given you some tangible tips that you can use and maybe explore a little bit more for yourself, and just take the time for you to feel and know that you've got some control here. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I really hope today has been useful, and I really appreciate you listening and being here. If this was helpful to you, please share with someone that you love. I really appreciate that. And also please subscribe if you're new. I'd love for you to stay around and like be a part of these kind of conversations and topics, because it's all this sort of stuff that I wish I knew, that I'm learning. And if it helps one person, I honestly, that will mean a lot. So let me know how you found this video, and I'll speak to you really soon in my next one. Okay, thank you. See you soon. Bye.